Friday, February 9, 2024. As usual, we're going to do a couple quick announcements, share some resources that you may or may not be aware of, and then we'll dive into the questions for today. We have two really solid questions that I'm looking forward to answering for you all. So pull up a chair, enjoy. These usually go about 15, 20 minutes. And just starting with announcements, we have a few things that I wanted to mention. First is for those who attended and I posted about it here, for those who attended or registered for the workshop, the Stop Self-Sabotage at the Source workshop with Paul Salter, which was amazing if you were able to attend last night. If not, don't worry. It's going to go to your email inbox with the replay, the slides, the prompts, the bonus video, the goodies, everything that we talked about. You're going to get it into your inbox. The registration is now closed, but if you regret that you missed that and you want all those bonuses, you can still reach out to me. Go ahead. I would go ahead and just reply to this post here. And by the way, I just liked my own post. It's like a habit. Tony was joking about that, but I just like everything just automatically. Just tag me here and I will get you in the list anyway, so you can get those goodies. And it'll be closed by, I think Monday or Tuesday. We're just going to completely close it out and you'll miss that opportunity. So check that out. It was incredible. We did a hypnotherapy session together that you'll be able to do if you watch the replay. So that'll be going out today. And then the latest episode of the podcast is out, episode 145 with Brian Borstein. Now, if anybody is in the know at all in the evidence-based training world, Brian is, one of the names out there that a lot of people know. He's a hypertrophy guy all the way, a bodybuilding guy. He's not necessarily in the, strength regime, powerlifting regime. He's all about bodybuilding, but he reminds me of Andy Baker in many ways, in that he's got just several decades of personal experience coaching people, and his insights on training are unique in that sense because they're informed by real practice and what works, but also by the science. Like, he has a good grasp of the evidence. So we talked about a lot of topics, but I think they're pretty concretely organized. So we talked about the effective reps model and training to failure, what his thoughts are on that, metabolic stress, intensity techniques, which are primarily to save time in the gym, how to get a good leg workout in a home gym with limited equipment, how to specialize your programming. So if you want bigger guns, better shoulders, bigger butt, whatever, how can you do that from a training programming perspective? And we talked about cardio, which is a big thing for him these days because he's also a quasi endurance athlete. This guy's jacked, but he's also an endurance athlete. And he shares, when lifting is still your priority, what is the dosage and approach to cardio? And I learned so much from my conversation with him that I have a goal now in my cut that's going to be starting next week to incorporate maybe a zone 2 session and a HIIT session every week. We'll see how it goes. I mean, I work out 6 days a week and my life's pretty busy and I do like to go for walks. So I need to be strategic about how that fits in and doesn't interfere with recovery, but helps recovery and helps with my expenditure. So I'll let you know how that goes. But definitely check out the episode, follow the show, share, all that good stuff. You leave a review if you haven't. You can do that. The best way to do that is through Apple. Go to Apple and leave a 5-star rating and review. We're up to 102 ratings now, which I'm super proud of. A lot of people seeing the show. Speaking of, there's this other new show coming out. If you're a podcast host, I would suggest following this new show. If you're a listener, you're not going to find as much value in it. Because it's for podcasters. It's about podcast marketing. However, the very first episode, they broke down this show, Wits and Weights. And I thought you as listeners would find it interesting because you may agree or disagree with some of their things. And we also have the podcast listener survey that's out right now, which I've posted about in the group. You can find the link here in the top featured section, or if you're on my email list, you should have received a few different emails or maybe just one email talking about that. So I thought it was coincidental that they decided to audit our show first. And I guess the podcast, which is called Podcast Marketing Trends Explained, comes out next week, but the YouTube video is already out. So I posted that in the group as well, right here. So check that out. And then last thing, reminder, if you go to witsandweights.com/podcast or just click podcast, you can scroll down and find this podcast finder. And then you could type in a search term, and it's powered by Google, so it's pretty accurate. It looks at all the episodes that I have loaded in the website and all the transcripts as well, for the main episode number. So not the quick wits, not the weekend Q&A. That would be too much work for me to put that all on the website. So I put the big article, the big episodes. And so if you typed build muscle, for example, you would see the first episode it suggests is 108, how to build muscle without getting fat. All right. And the hard gainer's guide, and what to do first, lose fat, build muscle. And the reason I'm bringing up this specific topic is going to segue me now into the questions. Specifically, this is going to be for the second question, which I will come back to. I'm going to close these other tabs. I am going to unpin last week's video. We're going to dive into today's questions. And here we go. So there are two questions. The first one is from Carol, and everyone knows Carol, who's on my team now. She's a longtime client. She's on the team, integral part of our community, and she's been posting lots of great engagement questions for us during the week. And she asked a question, a great one. When you have to take a break from training due to injury or illness, and she had a recent injury. I won't divulge details out of privacy unless she wants to share, but it limits her with certain movements in the short term. How long does it take before muscle loss begins to occur? So we don't want to freak out about breaks in our training, because it takes probably 2 to 3 weeks before you even begin to experience any muscle loss at all. And that's if you're not doing anything. And also, if protein isn't very high, and you're keeping the protein high, right? If you listen to my show, if you're in this community, we want to go for 0.7 to 1 grams per pound of body weight in protein. So if you're keeping the protein high, that helps a lot. And then if you're able to, keep walking, that helps as well with recovery. If you're able to keep eating at least at maintenance, and Carol was in a very lean gaining phase, and I suggested we bring her back to maintenance for now, because you don't want to overconsume when you're not able to use that nutrition to build muscle. She's just trying to hold on to that muscle. So if you're able to do some level of resistance training, even if it's like a quarter of the volume of normal, and that's after like a week or two break to just totally rest and let the injury heal, you're probably not going to lose anything, to be honest. If you have to ease back in because of the injury, the areas of your body and the muscle groups that you're not able to train at all will get a little bit detrained, but there is this cross-training effect we've seen. I noticed it personally when I went through my shoulder surgery last year, where if you're just able to train other parts of your body, there's just a little bit of a crossover that maintains more of the muscle mass in even the parts you're not using, especially if it's like an opposite limb type of thing. Of course, if you could only work legs or only work upper body, there may be a little bit of detraining. But I would say, to answer your exact question, it would start occurring around 2 or 3 weeks for most people. But again, it's going to take a long time to actually lose a decent amount of muscle. And if you're not in a deficit, it's going to really coast for a while, right? You're definitely going to lose some strength potentially because of the lack of the neuromuscular adaptation, because you're not doing those movements, but that's fine. That'll come back quickly. So yeah, I would say 2 to 3 weeks it starts. Keep the protein high. Don't be in a diet when you're recovering. And that process will take a lot longer than you think. So that's a good thing. All right. Second question. The second question today from Denise. I've been weight training 3 years. I've lost approximately 25 pounds, currently at 152 pounds, 5 feet, 4 inches, 66 years old. By the way, thank you for all the numbers. This is helpful. Based on 4 in-body scans, I've only gained 1 pound of muscle. I train 4 days a week. I eat approximately 14 to 1,500 calories a day. Protein ranges from 90 to 140 grams daily. How do I get more muscle to increase my daily expenditure? Great question, Denise. And I can give you some simple guidelines for this. Before I do, a couple of comments on your question itself. When you say you've lost 25 pounds, that implies to me that the 14 to 1,500 calories you're eating has had you in a deficit. So I want to make that assumption. I don't know that's true, but I'm going to assume that that's the case. You've also said you've had in-body scans that showed you gained a pound of muscle. Nobody's going to be surprised who followed me a while, but I don't trust those scans at all. I do like those things for trend numbers, meaning if you have multiple in-body scans over time under the same conditions, same time of day, same amount of clothing, same amount of food and water, like usually in the morning, right? When you haven't eaten, you haven't drunk anything. Although with InBody, they suggest having a little tiny bit of water like a few hours before, so you're not fully dehydrated. Anyway, if you do one of the same conditions, the body fat percentage and how it changes is somewhat reliable, meaning that not the number, but the trend over time. Like if it's going up or down, that's a good indicator of what's happening. But I don't necessarily trust the number itself, and therefore you can't trust the absolute pounds of muscle or fat that it's telling you. Having said that, if you've been dieting for a while, there's a good and you're past your newbie gains. Like if you're actually training hard, and I don't know what your training looks like, Denise. So that's another thing I would have to break down with you is, are you lifting heavy with progressive overload? Are you following a program that increases, stimulus over time, usually the weight, right? But it could also be sets and reps. Are you doing that? Like just getting stronger and building muscle. If you're doing that, then and you're past the first 3 to 6 month newbie gains, it makes sense that you're not going to gain a lot of muscle if you're dieting. So how do you get more muscle to increase your daily expenditure? Before I actually answer the question, I mentioned before I recorded these answers, in case people are listening to this on the podcast, that you can go to witsandweights.com, click podcast, scroll down to the podcast finder, and you can search for a topic you're interested in and look at previous episodes. So in this case, if you search build muscle, you'll see episode 108, how to build muscle without getting fat. Episode 130, the hard gainers guide. Episode 69, which is one of the most popular, what to do first, lose fat, build muscle, or body recomposition. And so I would say like episode 69 is a really good one because it gives you 7 scenarios that you're starting from and what direction you should go, and then how to do it. It gives you some prescriptive numbers and protocols to consider. But so in your case, what that's going to look like to build muscle is rule number 1, you can't be dieting. You want to be in a surplus. You want to be gaining weight intentionally. And it's not a lot of weight. We are talking about, for you as a female, 66 years old, I would say, 0.1% of your body weight per week. And if we're going to do some quick calculations on that, you weigh 152 pounds. So 0.1% is going to be 0.15 pounds per week. If you extrapolate that to 6 months, which is the minimum length I want you building muscle, that's 26 weeks. That's going to come out to a gain on the scale of 4 pounds. Like that's nothing. 4 pounds is nothing, right? You're 152, you get to 156. You might even go a little more aggressive if you want to try to build a little extra muscle, if you still have a lot of potential to do that. So 4 pounds over 6 months, less than a pound a month. You might even round that up to a pound a month, and then you gain 6 pounds. Either way, you go into a surplus, and then you can determine your calories and macros from that. And if you're not doing it already, Denise, definitely go download Macro Factor. We talk about it all the time here. Download Macro Factor. It's the best food logging app on the market and the only one that dynamically adjusts to your expenditure. Use my code WITSandWeights, all one word, to get a 14-day free trial. So Wits and Weights. Also, if you take the podcast listener survey, one of the prizes there you could win is a free subscription to Macro Factor. Don't let that stop you from getting it now. You can get a credit if you win that prize. Anyway, when you do that, I don't know what your calories are going to be because I don't know your expenditure, but now I want to address your actual question. How do I get more muscle to increase my daily expenditure? I don't think that should be the reason we want more muscle. And you and others may be surprised hearing me say that, but yes, having more muscle increases your basal metabolic rate, right? Your BMR, a tiny bit. It increases it a tiny bit. Now it increases it a little bit more in the sense that it makes you bigger, stronger. You can push more around. You could be more active, and then it all cascades. So I love that as kind of a piece of why you're building muscle. But the main reason you want to build muscle is, in your case, probably for function, for strength, for capability, maybe for physique. I don't know. You're 66. So I usually think of like, you want to be strong and capable and injury free. You don't want to have to be, fall and get fractured and all those things well into your, 80s and 90s. So that's the first thing I would say is like, you're not doing it to increase your expenditure, even though that might be a side benefit. However, if you go into a slight gain, like I suggested, your expenditure should start to rise, right? Even going to maintenance, your expenditure should rise because it's going to recover to what your body needs to balance everything out at homeostasis. And then when you go into a gaining phase, your body you'll get a little bit heavy, a tiny bit heavier. You're not going to gain much weight, actual weight. But the fact that you're telling your body that you've got tons of nutrition coming in, it's going to relax. You're going to burn more calories as a result. You're going to become less efficient, which is good for building muscle. You're less efficient. You're going to burn more, and your calorie intake will actually start to go up even more. So the first jump in calories is going to come from just going into a surplus. And then your expenditure will also increase from that point. And you could do it for a good 6 months, gain 4 to 6 pounds on the scale, half of which is muscle. And that's amazing. And then you can do a quick little mini cut to cut off the fat after that. So that's it in a nutshell. There's a lot more details under that in terms of, if you were working with me as a client, we would have a whole plan for your movement and step count. We would look at your training. We would look at your meal timing, your supplementation, all that good stuff. And for that, you could always reach out to me. We can set up a call or chat by email or messenger on those details. Everything, I'm totally open and transparent about how it works and the process we go through and the price and all that good stuff. But that is the answer to your question: to get more muscle. All right, that's it for today's Ask Philip. As always, thank you for your questions. I think the whole community can learn when you guys, ladies and gentlemen, and submit these questions here. Of course, you can use the group during the week and just post random posts and get comments that way. But if you want my direct live Q&A answer like this on Fridays, you want to submit the Ask Philip thread as a comment, and the next one will be posted later this afternoon by my man, Alan Friedman. So look for that and enjoy your weekend. We'll talk soon.